My name is Randy. I'm a 23-year-old guy and I worked at a deli in our local supermarket. I lived alone in an apartment not far from where I worked. It all started when I broke up with my very clingy ex-girlfriend, Sarah. We dated for a few months, but it didn't ever get too serious. At least from my point of view. She ended up dropping the L word within the first 2 days of us dating. I was honest and told her I liked her but wanted to take things slow. She didn't seem to mind too much and things were fine for a while. Then she started to text and call me, always asking where I was and who I was with. There were times she even dropped me off at work only to call 2 hours later to see if I was at work and accuse me of seeing someone else. I was pushed to my tipping point when she came pounding at my apartment door in the middle of the night screaming about how she knew she was in there and that I better let her in. I foolishly stumbled out of bed and cracked the door to ask her what was going on. She shoulder slammed my door with a ferocity I hadn't anticipated and it knocked me backward. Sarah stormed around looking under my bed and then in my closets. I was standing there in a barely awake shocked state for a moment before I told her she needed to leave. Sarah walks over to my knife block and retrieves the knife. She didn't grab the biggest one there. In fact, she grabbed an ordinary steak knife. She came right up to my face without once breaking eye contact and said, "If I ever find you with her, I will make you both pay, and it will be extremely slow and painful," before walking out my door and leaving me there in disbelief. As you can probably guess, I broke up with her the following day. I expected a huge blowout when I broke up with her. Instead, she just said she understood and hung up. Yes, I broke up over the phone. I didn't know how she would react in person after the night prior. I never did call the cops because I really didn't see the value of it. If anything, it made me look like a wimp in my eyes. A 6'3" guy calling the cops out of concern that a 5'0" girl might hurt him. Nothing outside the normal happened for a few days, when I found a bag of beef jerky and a note on my doorstep upon returning home from work. I picked them both up and made my way inside, already knowing it was an apology from Sarah. I opened the letter and read the following. "I hope you enjoy your jerky. I made sure to get your favorite kind. I will be seeing you soon. Love, your secret admirer." I threw the letter away and tore open the jerky and started eating. It wasn't enough to make me change my mind, but it was a nice treat and at least she did get my favorite jerky. After a couple of hours playing video games, my neighbor and friend Jason knocked on my door. He was inviting me to go bowling with him and some of his other guy friends. I had nothing better to do, so I decided to join them. When we got to the bowling alley, we were one of 2 groups in there. We asked for the lane on the opposite side of the alley and made our way over there to put on our shoes and settle in. We were just wrapping up our game when another group entered the alley and were put on the lane not far from ours, leaving one empty lane between us. I did notice that out of the 5 people there was a very attractive lady. We made eye contact for a brief moment before she quickly turned back to her friends. After playing another game, I decided to go get us some beer from the bar. Once at the counter, I order a pitcher and start the usual bar talk with the barkeep. We end up on the topic of women and I mention my recent breakup and the instance that led to me calling it off. "God damn, dude. I'll tell you what, this pitcher is half off. I have been there too." I thanked him and decided to leave what he had discounted as a tip. Just before leaving, I asked if they would bring drinks out to customers. He said that they would if it wasn't busy. I dropped some money on the counter and tell him to make up a round for the group of people next to us and bring it out. Back at my group, I once again stole a glance at the lady in the group next to us. This time I caught her looking, and she didn't look away. I was the one to break eye contact when I turned back to my group. I took my turn and went back to my drink just as the bartender was bringing our alley neighbors the drinks I had bought them. He signaled in my direction, assumingly identifying me as the one who had bought the drinks. I raised my drink in a cheers motion as they all smiled and waved. We all went about our games for a while until I decided to head outside for a cigarette. I light up and was gazing up at the sky when I heard the front doors open and looked over to see the lady I had been catching eyes with all night walking out. She came up to me and pulled out a cigarette as well. I still had my lighter out, so I lit it for her. She thanked me for both the light and the drinks and introduced herself as Candace. From what I learned, she had moved there about a month prior with her sister's husband and her sister. She mentioned they didn't get out much, so it was a nice treat to talk to someone outside of the family. We got on the topic of if we were seeing anyone. Turns out we were both newly single and not looking for anything serious. I recommend we exchange numbers to meet up and hang out sometime. She eagerly agreed and entered her number into my phone, making sure to call her phone also. We both made our way back to our games with the occasional smile to one another. About 15 minutes later, I get a call from Sarah. She starts the whole, "I miss you, I'm so sorry" theme. I tell her I'm really not interested in hearing it. What is done is done. She hears the music in the background and starts asking where I am and if I'm with her. I reply it's none of her business where I am or who I am with. She starts sobbing and I hang up on her, once again returning to my game. We play a little while longer and decided to call it a night, packing it up about the same time as our alley neighbors. We make it to the parking lot and I see Sarah standing there. That really caught me off guard. I was wondering how in the hell she found me, before realizing it was pretty late, and there aren't many places with loud music blasting at this time of night. She runs up to me and starts crying. I look at Jason with a desperate look for help. He returns the "you're on your own" look, while making his way to his car and saying he will meet me there. Sarah starts making a scene, and as this is happening I see Candace and her group looking over as they make their way to their van. Candace shoots me a reassuring smile and I return the best fake smile I could muster. Sarah jerks her head towards Candace, and Candace's smile fades, revealing what I call a death stare. If looks could kill, Sarah's family would be planning for a funeral. Sarah turns back to me and tells me that she'll talk to me later, and that this isn't over, before storming off in the direction of her car. I make my way to Jason and we head home. Once at the apartment, I thanked Jason for the invitation and told him I really needed it. "Yeah, I can see that," he said, chuckling and unlocking his door. I went in my apartment and called it a night. The next day I got up to my alarm clock and did my usual routine getting ready for work. When I looked at my phone, I saw that I had a missed text from Candace asking how I was. I told her that things could be worse. On my way out the door, I see a sealed box with my name on it sitting on my doorstep. Rolling my eyes, I put Sarah's next pitiful attempt at an apology on the table and head to work. About halfway through my shift, my manager tells me I have a call on the customer line. I go and answer it and am greeted with the sound of someone hanging up. This happens 2 more times before my workday is complete. My manager even informs me that the work phone is not for personal calls. I let him know I have no idea who is calling. He shrugged and said I better figure it out before my weekend is up and I come back to work. That evening I get home and am greeted by yet another package on my doorstep. I get inside and place that package next to the other one from this morning before hopping in the shower. When I dry off and check my phone, I see that Candace had messaged me back. She thanked me again for the drinks last night and said she couldn't help but see my argument. I told her it was just another bitter ex, and she told me she knows those all too well, before recommending we meet up again sometime soon. We make plans for the following day for a walk at the park since we both are free, and I make my way back to my table to see what had been left for me. I open the box that had been left for me that morning and see another box with a piece of paper attached. I unfold the paper and see that it's actually a drawing. It looked like it had been drawn by a fingertip using blood. It was extremely creepy in its simplicity. It was a smiley face with a line vertically through it. More confused than anything, I tossed it aside and opened the box it was attached to. I cut the tape and unfold the top of the box before peering inside. Then immediately wish I hadn't. It was warm in my apartment, but I had the biggest chill run down my spine as I realized what I was looking at was a human ear caked in blood. My heart started racing and I had one of the biggest surges of adrenaline I had ever had. My mind started racing, trying to figure out what was going on and what I should do. I got my bearings and immediately dialed 911 to report what I had found. The rest of my evening involved a lot of questions, my apartment being searched, me being brought to the station, and a lot more questions. I told them everything I knew, multiple times. They asked if I had any idea who had left those packages, and I brought up Sarah as being my only suspect and explained our situation. They asked for her contact info, to which I gave them her phone number. About 2 a.m, they finally let me go and said that they would be contacting me again soon. They gave me a lift home and informed me that they would be closely monitoring my area. I thanked the officers and made my way back into my apartment. Upon walking in, my apartment gave off a different vibe. It was very weird knowing that a piece of someone had been inside my place. Well, detached from the rest of the body, of course. I wondered if they were alive. I wondered whose body it was from. And probably most of all, I wondered who had left the packages. The cops never did tell me what was in the second package, nor did I even care to ask them. After getting a little bit of sleep, I wake up to my phone ringing. I sluggishly answer it to my mom frantically asking if I was okay. I hadn't even told her about the packages, so I was assuming she had got wind of that. "Yes, Mom, I'm fine. Just had a mighty good scare from it." She started apologizing for the loss of my friend and said she was praying for Sarah's family. "Sarah's family?" I asked her in surprise. "Why are you praying for them?" My mom hesitated before stating, "You know they found her body early this morning, right? That is why I'm calling you. I just saw it on the news and assumed you knew already." I informed her I had no idea, just as a loud knock scared me out of my skin. I make my way over and open the door to the officers I had spoken to the night prior. I told my mom I needed to go. "Randy, we need you to come with us and answer a few more questions." I asked them if it was true that Sarah was dead. They just told me that we would talk at the station. Jason had his door open and asked me if everything was okay. I told him in passing that I had no idea. Once in the interrogation room, the police did confirm that Sarah was found dead. They said it was a homicide, and from what they gathered, she was killed not long after our little quarrel at the bowling alley parking lot. I was asked where I was after the fight, and I told them. They told me that they would need to confirm with my neighbor to make sure I was with him, and that I didn't own a vehicle. In the meantime, they dropped a bombshell on me. They told me that in the other box I had found on my porch, they found a severed hand. Both the hand and the ear were from the same person. That person was also found dead. That person was Sarah. My mind stopped working for a moment. I felt like someone had just struck me upside the head with a 2x4 and I couldn't even come up with a coherent thought. After getting lost in my head for what felt like an hour, I was called back to reality by the officer asking if I had any idea who would want to harm her. I was completely stumped. I hadn't heard of anyone wanting to hurt her, nor did she voice any concerns. After a few more hours, the officers told me that my alibi checked out, and given the fact I didn't have a car, I couldn't have killed her and moved her body in that time. They were not considering me a person of interest anymore, but if I had any information to give them a call. Once again, I was dropped off at my apartment with my mind in complete disarray. Everything felt like it was just one long bad dream. I started to feel a little bad for how I treated Sarah the night of her death. Maybe I should have given her another try. I quickly squashed that thought and laid on my bed thinking about everything that had just happened. After an hour or so, I get a text from Candace asking me if we were still on for our walk. I had completely spaced it due to everything going on. I decided to give her a call rather than text. "Don't tell me you're calling to cancel on me," she says in obvious disappointment. I decide to tell her everything that is going on. She says that it's unfortunate to hear, but given how she heard her talking to me in the parking lot, it wasn't a surprise someone would kill her. That statement caught me off guard. I told her Sarah could be a little crazy, but death wasn't what she deserved. Candace paused before she said I was probably right. She then started to encourage me to join her for the walk, saying it would help to take my mind off of things. Getting out in the fresh air did sound a lot better than sitting in my creepy-feeling apartment, so I told her we were still on and I would see her soon. I took a long shower and got dressed for the walk and met her at the city park. We exchanged a quick greeting before starting down the trail. The first few minutes felt awkward, like neither of us knew what to say. Candace finally broke the silence. "So I take it you and Sarah are done for good now." "That isn't funny, Candace," I snapped back. "But it is true," she states, giving me a matter-of-fact look. "Too soon for jokes," I reply. We walk in silence a little longer until we hear shuffling in the trail beside us. We both turn our attentions to the source of the sound and see a snake that just caught a mouse. We started hearing the shrieking of the mouse as the snake began to devour it. Candace chuckles and I look over to see her smiling and not appearing to blink. "Isn't death beautiful?" she says while still staring at the snake. No? The look in someone's eyes as life leaves them is like nothing else you can experience. Once you witness it, you realize how precious and beautiful death really is. You can only die once, and once you're gone, all that's left is how you impacted the world. Most people have no significance. Everyone is too busy worrying about themselves to put in an effort and make the world a better place. We like to make the world a better place. We like to make a real impact. I stood there in complete silence as I listened to what Candace was saying. My mouth started to feel dry. That's when I realized that I was now listening to Candace with my jaw literally dropped. She looked at me when I finally closed my mouth to swallow. Sarah wasn't doing anything good for the world. In fact, she was dragging it down. Along with you. You should be happy she's dead. We did you a favor. We did you a favor? What the hell does that mean? I asked, all but sure of what I was about to hear. My family helped the world with one of its problems. We helped you with one of your problems. Just as she finished that statement, I started running back to the trail entrance. I sprinted through it and kept on going towards my apartment while simultaneously pulling out my cell phone and dialing 911. I'm trying to tell the operator what's happening while running at full speed, and just as my apartment comes into view, I hear the roar of an engine. I look over my shoulder and I see a van speeding up behind me. I quickly recognize it as the van Candace had gotten into at the bowling alley, and I start screaming to the operator that a girl named Candace and her family killed my friend and are after me. The next thing I know, the van is right beside me and the back sliding door swings open. 2 masked people jump out before I can react and throw me in the back of the van. The door is slammed, the van guns it, and my cell phone is tossed out the window. I start begging for them to let me go, that I won't say anything to anyone. The person in the passenger seat turns back, lifts their mask, and I see that it is Candace. She winks at me before putting her mask back on her face and turning back to the front. We have something very special planned for you. You are going to help make this world a better place. You will have meaning, and we will help you find that meaning. Now just stay down. With that, the 2 people that grabbed me held me on the floor of the van while another came towards me with a cloth. I thought they were about to smother me, so I fought with everything I had. Then as the cloth got closer, I smelled the obvious chemical smell. They held it over my mouth and nose, and before I could even form a complete thought, I felt myself fading away into unconsciousness. Little did I know, I was about to experience something that made this whole ordeal sound like a cakewalk. I appreciate you checking out this video, and make sure you check back tomorrow to hear the rest of this story. I want to let everyone know that this story was written by me, inspired by the Sunny Family Cult. It's a very scary series found over on CryptTV. It's only one of many scary series that they have, and I know everyone's looking for more scary stuff, so make sure you head over to CryptTV and subscribe. You can actually see where the whole inspiration for this story came from, the cult and everything, as well as a bunch of other weekly horror content. This is actually the second story I've written inspired by the series The Sunny Family Cult. I highly recommend you go subscribe to CryptTV. I will catch everybody in the next video, which will be tomorrow, so make sure you have your notifications on, and I want to give a big shout out to CryptTV for sponsoring. I don't know if it's technically sponsoring, but this paid collaboration, this is really fun, I'm enjoying this. And I'm excited to share the rest of the story with everyone tomorrow. And just remember to watch your back, because you never know who, or what, is watching you. I don't have anything funny to add in today's video, so, sorry.